I can't remember things like she remembers things anymore because of my age. For any of you who have wondered, after looking at my wrinkles and deteriorating running body, I'm 65 years old this year. I was a nurse for 31 years before some illnesses sidetracked me, and I got away from the life as I knew it of running and working 80 hours a week. At the point of my retirement, I had a total mental health and psychological breakdown. I was to the point where I could not leave my house. I had agoraphobia. Here I was, a person who made over $60,000 a year 13 years ago and couldn't even face the person in the grocery store. After a sexual assault exam that I performed, I was working as a sexual assault nurse. I was doing sexual assault exams. There were two 13-year-olds who came in. Both had been raped, date raped. They had been drinking a lot. They had been partying. The boys had spent money on them. And they thought it was okay that the boys raped them because, you know, the boys provided them with the entertainment for the night and the dinner and whatever they got. And at that point, I realized that the same thing had happened to me. And I always put it to the back of my mind because it happened to me because I let it happen. I let them have permission to do that to me. And I never really thought it was anybody's fault but my own fault. But that drove me back to the doctors again. It drove me back to my bed. I would not get up. I would not eat. I would not do anything. I don't remember those years. My husband would have to tell you what it was like those years because it was just an endless torment for about 7 years for me. Unfortunately, God said that wasn't enough for me. He took away my mental capacity at that point, and he said that's not quite enough. I could still go out in the yard and garden. I could still lift 50-pound bags worth of soil. I could still do something on the days that I felt good. So it wasn't enough that I was in the bed from the depression. He decided, okay, let's see what happens when I take the skills of her body away. I got fibromyalgia. I was in bed for 3 solid years. I was on 23 medications to try to take the pain away from me mentally, from being depressed about everything that had happened, and the pain away from me physically. But in 2009, I decided, this is it, I'm getting out of the bed. I did what they call a medication holiday. I got off all of the meds to see what maybe meds I would really need. And I went to the YMCA. Well, I had run 5Ks and 10Ks before, so I thought, let me go to the Y and run 3 miles. Well, anybody that runs 3 miles that hasn't run 3 miles in 7 years had no muscle tone. I got not fibromyalgia, I got plantar fasciitis, and I got it so bad I couldn't even stand on the foot. So it took another year from my life, but during that year from my life, I got Windsor Pilates. Who has heard of Windsor Pilates? Pilates brought my strength back to my body again. I started to go to the doctor and get medicines that I needed for the pain that I couldn't manage. Was no longer on pain medications for it, was more on a muscle relaxer and on a antidepressant drug called amitriptyline. They used it 50 years ago in psychiatric cases for depression. So then, when that pain went away, I went back to the Y again, but this time I was smarter, and this time I did it by using classes instead of just going to the treadmill and running myself. So through the classes and through going to the YMCA, I found a friend base, because by this time, all the friends that I had in the community that I knew, all the people in the police department, all the people in mental health, all the people at Somerville and Trident and MUSC, I just cut my life off from them. My new friends became the people at the YMCA, and the YMCA saved me because I started finding who I was again. And for 5 years, I've been running with them. 3 years ago, I was so competitive in running that I placed in 11 out of the 13 races that I ran that year. So here I was doing all of this, and I decided at the end of last year that my life needed more purpose. I wasn't just supposed to be amusing my friends at the YMCA, and anybody knows I like to amuse my friends. I am a lot of fun. So I searched in my church. I thought, well, maybe I should work with the elderly. I should be one of the people that goes out in the community and tells them, you know, what the doctor is doing to them is wrong and they have to get better care. Or maybe I should be with shut-in people. Maybe I should be going visiting them. I worked maternity for 15 years, so I thought, well, maybe I should be the lactation consultant and go help them breastfeed. But everything didn't feel good. So then I went to the Y and Kim Taylor, and I said, well, maybe we should have a pregnancy class here. And then the next thing maybe I should teach silver sneakers. And then the next thing was, well, maybe I should just sit and counsel the people who have depression or have young kids and they want to be away from their kids instead of spending time with them. But God didn't really say this is what I'm supposed to be doing. He did not lead me to those places. So then I started having what I call God sightings. So in 2014, I decided finally, after 26 advertisements and all of these emails, that I would finally sign up for Runner's World because they promised me a watch and a journal log that I could put my running in. So I said, great. So the first one came. It was January, February issue. And guess who was in it? Liz Farrow, the teacher. There was a one-page write-up of what she had been doing in Cleveland, Ohio, and the very last paragraph said, you have it in your handout, said something about she was interested in maybe starting it somewhere else. So I thought, okay. I looked up girlswithsoul.org, saw that there was a place to get her at liz@girlswithsoul.org, and I wrote her a letter and told her that I was very interested in this. This is very powerful for me, and that I had done a program similarly in Charleston. I trained the sexual assault nurse examiners in Charleston. We were the first program that ever happened in South Carolina to train our nurses. So I knew from that experience that I could put any type of program on. So I wrote to her, but she wasn't convinced. So I wrote to her, and she still wasn't convinced. So I wrote to her again. And finally, I don't know what it was, but finally she said in the end of May, well, why don't you come to our Lula race, Lacing Up for a Lifetime of Achievement, and see what it's like. So I came, and I hovered over her. She kept saying, well, you can leave now and go somewhere else. I said, no, this is where I want to be. So for 5 hours, I was up Liz's butt in a small sports store, and I noticed that every person that came in the door knew her. And if they didn't know her, they said, oh my God, you're Liz Farrow. And I've never seen that except for Lucinda Hughes at the YMCA. So I knew that this was the place I was supposed to be. And as I got through the different contacts, I realized God had done everything in His power, not my power. I didn't have shoes and shirts and sports bras. And I asked Lucinda Hughes at the Y who would be a good person. Was it Dick's? Was it Tri Sports? Was it Fleet Feet? And she said, Amy Minkle and Chris Minkle of Fleet Feet, you know, they're really doing a lot in the community. Why don't you go to them? So I looked up Amy Minkle and Chris, and I found out that Amy was doing this, I don't even see it here, a program where she gave sports bras to all the girls who were doing the ROTC. Then she had a school of 800 kids in Charleston where she fitted them all with running shoes because they had a running program on. It's a charter school in Charleston. I'm not sure what it's called. So I wrote to her. To my surprise, she wrote me back the very same day. And when I wrote her back that, yes, I'd like to meet you, she says, how about tomorrow? This is 2 days before I was scheduled to go to see Liz. In that interview that I went to in Mount Pleasant at Fleet Feet, she told me, I can find a vendor for the shoes, I can get your sports bras, and I can get you running shirts. And within 2 days, New Balance agreed to supply the shoes for the girls, sports bras. She has another company, Moving Comfort, that also can do it. And within the time I contacted her 2 days before I left to see Liz, I could tell Liz when I got there, we have this much in place. So she still doesn't believe that I want to do this. So it was amazing. It was amazing. When I went to the Y and asked for help, I had all these people coming to me and say, I want to teach the girls this class. I had people that I ran with tell me that I would love to run with these girls. I had people that didn't necessarily run or want to work with the girls saying, how can I volunteer and help in some way? So I know this is the community. And I did tell Liz within 2 letters that Charleston is strong before Charleston Strong even happened, and that I had no problem at all getting what I needed for the sexual assault nurse examination room, and that I would have no problem at all doing this program here. So each and every one of you in this room are a part of this. You know, you each have something you can contribute, whether it's a name in the community that can help us get some of this through, or whether it's participating in the programs or trying to get the programs in your schools. I went to churches. I sent out emails to probably 150 churches. I got maybe 5 email responses. So I was unhappy with that. So the next 2 days I went out to every church I could find in Somerville. The next day I went out to every church I could find in West Ashley. I had 2 responses out of over 20 visits. So I know this can work in churches because churches helped us with the sexual assault nurse examination programs. But what I don't know is what the key is to talk to people so that they can get beyond the abuse. When people hear about abuse, they don't want to deal with that. So I have to find a way to get beyond that, and I think I know the secret, but right now I don't have the answer to that. When I went to Ohio, Liz's family took me in. They went out with me. Everybody in her family went out to eat with me. She treated me like one of the family. And that's what we're all going to be here, one of the family. And that's what it needs to be in the Charleston community. While I was there, I met one of Liz's buddy called Mike Pistorino, right? Some of you will see him on the Facebook site if you're friends with me. He is doing the same campaign about male sexual abuse. And when he posts something that is really in my heart, I post it back. You know how the Bible says that one generation doesn't always get rid of those evils? It sometimes goes through more than one generation. My grandson was 4 years old when he started drawing pictures of a missile-like object that had lots of hair on it. He said that his grandfather was doing this to him, and this is what he was doing this to him with. My daughter was lost to see what this could possibly be. I was lost to see what this could possibly be. So I said, Jen, just wait until I get there at Christmas. So he's 4 years old, we're doing our Christmas Eve, and I'm taking him into the bedroom and doing a sexual assault examination on him to see what he's talking about. We went through multiple visits to their special treatment center through New Jersey College of Medicine, and they were terrific. But Joshua wouldn't tell them what was going on. He only told me and his mother. They believed we were coaching him. The lawyer that we had believed that we were making this up to get full custody. We were paying this lawyer, and this is what we got. The judge sent him back to his grandfather with unsupervised visits, despite what the lady said to him. The counselor, the woman physician that saw him, made recommendations. This past month, I saw an article by a judge on Facebook who let a convicted man have visitation rights. And I thought, well, I hope someday that judge that let him back to this, I hope that he finds that he's made those same mistakes, because this shouldn't happen to children. Joshua was having a Spider-Man plastic figurine put in the freezer, and the plastic figurine was inserted up his anus into his rectum. And the judge sent him back. So this is worse than anything that I experienced as sexual assault. I didn't experience anything as bad as Liz did. I was molested at 4 in church by a male church member. I was molested by my cousin when I was around 11, and then I was date raped at 13. So they were just isolated incidents. I didn't have to bear this day after day after day. Now, from this, I got post-traumatic stress disorder after I saw those 13-year-olds being examined, because that rang that bell. I actually had dissociated so much that I couldn't remember any of that until I examined those 2 13-year-olds. And then all of a sudden, God put the video in my brain, and that's all I could play. About 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, people probably noticed a change in me at the Y. I was going through pictures of my grandmother, and I found the man who molested me when I was 4. I had seen those pictures, I don't know how many times. I had never recognized his face. And when I saw it, I went back into a spiral again. And my friends that knew about it picked me up and put me back on my feet. But I didn't crash this time, because I'm strong, you know. I'm through this. I finally relived all 3 episodes, and I don't have to relive them anymore. That doesn't have to be anymore. So what did I find out when I started looking online for all of this? The HUD Secretary, Housing for Urban Development, is that what it is? In St. Louis, announces 8 new Promise Zone designations for high poverty areas. Guess what's a high poverty area? Charleston, the Low Country, was number 7 on the list. 6 of them were inner city places. 1 was an Indian reservation, but the richest place in the world, Charleston, South Carolina, has the highest poverty. So do we have a problem in this state? Yes, we have a problem in this state. These kids, or a lot of these kids, can't afford to go to the Y. They can't afford to be on a football team because their parents don't have the money to put them on it, or they don't have the equipment to do it. So it's our job to give these girls a shot at it. When you get abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, or sexual, or neglect, which can be physical care or just poor parenting. I was a poor parent for 20 years before I figured it out. You know, I got disciplined by getting beat to death every time I did something wrong. So that was my method of doing it for the first 2, not the last one. So I didn't have a good parenting role model. When a child is abused, they get anger issues. And you can either do one of 2 things. You can be angry out, or you can be angry in. And when you're angry in, you take that anger and you stuff it. And that stuffed anger just eats away at you, and it's corrosive. It just eats away for you and eats away for you until you're not yourself anymore. You become very judgmental of yourself. You're very negative when you say things. You know, well, I deserved that. You know, I let that happen. I did it. So Anger out is using sports. It's using counseling. It's using group participation. It's excelling in any area of school, whether it be sports or whether it be science or math or any type art. So what we need to do is we need to find ways to channel these girls, the anger, so that it's out and it's not in. I was a very sad child. I almost brought some pictures to show up here, but I thought that would be way too much. I look at every picture of me from the age of 2 and 4, and I have the longest frown on my face. I have these big, round eyes and this frown. I look like a moppet. And I realized I couldn't smile then. I was broken. You know, there wasn't anything to smile about. Then I really had an emotional roller coaster in my teens. I didn't do anything dishonest or I didn't do anything wild, but I was up and down all the time, just like you see me at the gym. One day I'm up, one day I'm down. But I was very competitive. I had to have the best grade in science. I had to have the best grade in math. I had to be the fastest at running. When I was out running, I had to be the best cheerleader. I had to be the best everything. And if I wasn't, I just felt defeated, and it was more stuffing in of anger and the feelings that I wasn't doing things. So in your folder, you'll see abuse and neglect can cause severe emotional and psychological changes. Just read that when you get home. The mental health issues that can occur, by 22, I had tried to commit suicide one time. Postpartum depression hit after I had my second baby. I had a girl that was 2 years old and then had a second daughter. All I wanted to do was sleep, and all they wanted to do was me to be a mommy, and I couldn't be a mommy. When I took an overdose and my husband figured out what I had done and called the ambulance, the police came. What did the police want to do? I got arrested. They did take me to the hospital. They did put the big fat rubber hose down my nose and put charcoal in my stomach and give me IV fluids until I woke up. And then the police threatened me, if I do this again, you're going to be incarcerated. So that's what happened to me. I don't think they did anything for me at that point. I just kind of got better on my own. And of course, I always went back to work after 6 weeks maternity leave, and I guess working finally ironed some of that out because that was my friends and support system. I was first tested to see what was wrong with me at age 35. I had been through a second marriage by then, and I realized the marriage that I had, my husband was a severe alcoholic and a psychopathic personality. And what happened is I completely shut down. I took about 3 weeks off of work, and I don't think I got out of bed because I was so shocked that my husband was drinking. The reason I found out he was drinking is because he came home one night, and instead of urinating in the toilet, he was standing in the stairway peeing on the steps. And then he was sitting in the bed, and I was trying to talk to him, and I said, "Are you listening to me?" And I shoved him, and he just went completely, just like he was sitting down on the floor. And I realized he was out cold. I mean, so much alcohol and so much cocaine in his system. When they diagnosed me, they just said I had an acute depressive episode, and they put me on antidepressants. At age 47, I probably had attempted suicide by two or three more times. I really can't remember. But at age 47, I was due to get married again. My husband and I had a giant fight, and I decided that that was enough. I moved all my stuff. We had 2 houses at that point, my house, his house. Took all my stuff out of his closet, drove home after I had drank a couple of glasses of wine, and downed a whole bottle of Tylenol. About 10 minutes into it, I called a physician friend of mine that had worked with me very closely. and he said, you need to get to the hospital. They called my daughter at that point. She was at her girlfriend's house. And they took me to Trident Hospital and put me in 4-point leather restraints, because at that point I was skating on the floor with my socks and doing a lot of fun things that they didn't want me doing, and I'm sure I was trying to pull out the second rubber hose I had down my nose to try to get the charcoal in my body to get rid of the medicine. My family refused to take me home, and I was involuntarily committed to MUSC for 3 days. I finally got a diagnosis of what had happened to me. I'm 47 years old. My first bout with mental health was at 22. It took me how many years to get a diagnosis? And then, much to my surprise, from 47 to age 60, it took that many years for me to get on the right medicine so I could function again as a human being. So girls that have a history of abuse and have a history of even bullying, it damages them psychologically, and something happens with that psychology in your brain. You don't grow up normally, you know. You have behavioral issues, you have maybe borderline personality, acute depression. I have seasonal affective disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and severe anxiety. It was hard not being myself for those 12 years. I mean, I was shallow. I didn't feel very good about myself. I wasn't there anymore. I went from a nurse with a master's degree that could leap over tall buildings and do anything that I wanted to do, to a person who was limited to pretty much stay in their house by themselves, not have any contact with any friends, and go to the gym once a day. So God sent me on this mission, and the mission He sent me on is to work with Liz. And my husband said to me, because I said to him, you know, I will never be Liz Farrow. I mean, I don't have the energy that she has. I'm too old. You know, I said, it would take at least 2 of me to be one of her. And he said, you don't have to be her. Your gift is your spirituality and your inner strength. So I am giving you all my gift of my spirituality, and I would love to have this program in any place that would take us in Charleston. I'm going to introduce you to a few people who've agreed to spend a few minutes and tell you what they do, and at the end we'll take questions. Virgil, you can go home. You can go.
All right. You don't need me to video this.
Well, you can video it if you want to spend another 20 minutes here. What do you want to do? You'll do it? Okay. Aronette Talton, is she here? No, she did not come. I guess I told her she was going to speak and she didn't want to come. I'm sorry I didn't meet each one of you that I said I was going to meet. I really need to meet you all before you leave, so I know I can put a face with your name. All right. Aronette Talton was our only victims advocate that was coming. She works with the Dorchester Children's Center, Children in Crisis. She's not here, correct? Or she's not admitting she's here. Kim Taylor. Woohoo! Kim Taylor is on our advisory board for Girls with Soul, and she is the chief operating officer for the YMCA at the Ponds. Come, you want to tell us what you're doing? You have 5 minutes. Whoa.
Carol, you can leave that mic on there.
On me?
On the
podium. If I can get it off. You're on.
Hi, I'm Kim Taylor. I've been with the Y about 13 years, and I met Carol probably 5 or 6 years ago. I see lots of friendly faces. A lot of you have come through the Y and really kind of lifted me up as well. So when Carol was telling me about this program and kind of explaining it to me, it really felt to me like it was a good match to be with the Y. All of the passion and the trauma and how those two things, when you come together, can have such a different positive output on not only these girls' lives, but the way that they see and live their life. So as far as the Y is concerned, I want you to know we are backing you up 100%. We definitely want to help in any way, and whatever we can do to help you, we're right there with you. We're of mind, body, and spirit as well. So when you said that, that's kind of how we think of things. And John 3:16. So for me, again, it was an obvious win. And I look forward to working with all of y'all. If I can ever be of any assistance, my office is at the Ponds, but you can reach me at 871 YMCA. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me specifically, but I can take a seat.
We're going to take questions at the end.
Perfect. Thanks.
Next victim. Thank you, Kim. She really bears with me in my strangest of moods. My next guest is Bronwyn Bethia. We call her B because nobody can say Bronwyn. We're sorry. B is a school counselor. She is God's biggest gift to me to date because she's going to tell you why.
Well, my name's Bronwyn Bethea. I'm currently a school counselor. I was a teacher for 12 years. I was at Orange Grove Charter School in West Ashley. Some of you might have heard about that school in Charleston School District. I've really gotten a lot of support from my school to house a space so that we can have a preliminary Girls with Soul program in Charleston. My principal has been awesome about allowing that. I actually had a group of girls that I mentored very similarly to the Girls of Soul. We called it the Empress Club. They came up with the name. It was really just a group of girls to help build each other up, and I totally agree with the philosophy of Girls with Soul with that. We really need to teach these girls, especially the 4th and 5th grade girls as they're getting older. We've actually expanded into a middle school. We have 6th grade this year, and we're going to be adding a grade at a time. And I just see with the girls, they really need a group where they can bond and they can share similar experiences. And even if they aren't similar, they can learn from each other. It's just been really a blessing to have that kind of support from the school where I work. This is my first year as a school counselor. I was there as a teacher, but it's just great to be able to introduce different experiences to these girls at the school. So, yeah.
B talked to me one time, I think, and the next time she talked, she said, I think the principal's going to let us do this. So, I mean, this can't be not God. I mean, He is in everything that we're doing, and I feel so strongly about this. So she and her principal,
John Clendaniel.
In fact, he might have been on the 5:30 news today. This morning, Liz was on taped for the 5:30 news, so we don't know what that show was like because we were here, obviously. So, and Bee's principal was taped as well. So we're very excited about that. Tomorrow morning, Liz is going on Low Country Live at 10 a.m. So between 10 and 11, you'll see Liz and whatever she comes up with. The next is Carrie Love. She's here. She is the prevention and education person from People Against Rape, one of my favorite organizations. I worked with them very closely when I did the sexual assault nurse examinations.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So again, I'm Carrie. I'm the Prevention Education Coordinator at People Against Rape. So People Against Rape is the local rape crisis center. So we do the Tri-County, Berkeley, Dorchester, and Charleston counties. My job specifically is to go into a lot of high schools, middle schools. Charleston Southern is one of the colleges that we come to, and we talk about sexual assault prevention. So we are working largely in the school system, and I definitely agree that that's something really important that we should be doing because we need to be talking about these kind of difficult to talk about topics in order to really prevent them from happening. Is everyone familiar with People Against Rape? Can you raise your hand if you are? Okay, so I have a lot of people, but I just want to briefly go over our services just so you're aware. So I also work as a victim advocate, all of our staff members do, and we go to MUSC for any rape exam. So with the same nurses there, the sexual assault nurse examiner, the survivor also has a victim advocate there with them. So that's one service we provide. And just good to know those exams are completely free. And we really recommend that everyone goes whether or not they want to make a police report. We only work with adult survivors of sexual assault, so that's another important thing to know. So while we are going into those schools, when it comes to victim advocacy, it's only 18 and older. Other than that, we have a 24/7 hotline, and I'm going to leave some brochures, so if you want more information on that, it's there. And that's for people to call if it's a crisis call, so if a sexual assault just happened, or if they just want some support and someone to talk to about coping with a sexual assault. We have 2 support groups, so one for survivors of adult sexual assault, so meaning the assault happened after they already turned 18, and then one for survivors of childhood sexual assault, because we do know that those can be victims of childhood sexual assault can really face some long-lasting traumatic results from that. So we want to make sure that we're providing services for them as well. And then other than that, we have a lot of events that we do, and we would love to work with everyone in the future because we really see the importance of having great community partners. So if you have any questions at the end, let me know, and I'll be here for a little bit. And again, I'll leave brochures, and I'll also leave my card for you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Carol Hogue. Yes. She is from Darkness to Light. I believe she's on the Charleston Southern campus, correct?
Yes, I do wear 2 hats. I work at Charleston Southern University with at-risk 18-year-olds, so I'm trying to keep them in school and out of trouble and not be a parent, but be a parent at the same time. But one of the other passions that I have is to work with Darkness to Light. We do child sexual abuse prevention education, and we firmly believe that even though it's very important to teach children about their bodies and to teach them they can say no and to teach them about boundaries, I listened to your story and my heart broke because you had a parent who didn't support you and who was not there for you. And so what we want to do is to train adults to be supportive. We can teach a child to tell a trusted adult, but if the trusted adult doesn't know what to do with the information, then we've short-circuited that opportunity for healing for that child. And so the sooner a child discloses and talks and gets the help they need, the sooner that they can get on the track of being a healthy adult. And so that's what we're here all about. One of the things I could offer to you guys is I would love to have the opportunity to train all of your volunteers who will be working as coaches and working directly with the children in stewards of children.
I was wondering how I was going to get that done.
Well, you just got it. You just got it. We'll train you in stewards of children so that if a child does disclose to you, we're all about preventing, recognizing, and reacting responsibly. So having policies in place so that you as volunteers are protected, the children are protected, the school is protected, but also helping you be prepared that if a child, because you're going to develop good relationships with these girls and they're going to tell you things, you're going to be that trusted adult for some of them. They're going to tell you things that they don't feel comfortable sharing with anyone else. So I'm not trying to scare you off, but this is what you're stepping into. If you're going to be there, you have to be there, and you need to be prepared to be there. So we'd love to be able to do a training for you guys and offer any other resources that we have to you as a national nonprofit. Thank you.
See? You just asked. Hey, I hounded some people here. We have Maria Beth Smith from the National Alliance of Mental Illness next, and it's NAMI, we call it, and she is a client meeting facilitator. I don't know what our other roles are, but here she comes.
Hi, y'all. A long time since I've been on a podium.
Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm from NAMI, and that's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it is the largest grassroots organization dealing with mental illness and in the United States. And just wanted to read a few things that you might not know. Did you realize that 1 in 5, so if you guys count it off, every 5th person, 1 in 5 adults will experience a mental illness each year. And some of those can be, long bouts, some of those can be short bouts, some of them can be chronic. 1 in 25 adults experience a serious mental illness which interferes or limits their life activities. And here we get kind of sad. 1 in 5 youth aged 13 to 18 will experience severe mental disorder at some point during their life. 1.1% of the adults in the United States live with schizophrenia. 2.6 live with bipolar. 6.9 have had at least one major depressive episode. Have you guys heard of nervous breakdowns? That's what they used to call them. And 18% of adults experience anxiety disorders, panic attacks, post-traumatic stress disorders, OCD. They're all part of anxiety disorders, and certain phobias. And lastly, amongst the 20.7 million adults in the United States who experience substance abuse problems, 40% of those had a co-occurring mental illness, which they were trying to medicate with the illicit drugs to try to keep their symptoms in check. So when I first heard that, I was like, that's a new way to look at drug use. I'd never thought of that, NAMI, who are we? I already said we're the largest grassroots mental health organization. We're dedicated to bettering the lives for millions of people affected by mental illness. We advocate for access to mental health services. We also advocate for treatment and supports to be put in place, and also research. We are steadfast in our commitment to raising awareness, reducing stigma, and building a community of hope for all of those who are in need. This started as two mothers with grown-up male children who had severe schizophrenia, and they said, we don't know what to do. We can't handle them. Where are the resources? And they started to meet regularly and combine resources, and then it went to kitchen meetings and kind of expanded more and more people. And that was in 1979. And now we're throughout the United States and in many other countries. What do? We educate. Through our NAMI organization and affiliates, we make sure a lot of families, individuals, and teachers get support and information they need. NAMI is really good about getting the latest that National Institutes of Mental Health and the National Institutes of Health have provided us in the treatment of mental health issues. We listen. We have a 1-800 NAMI helpline, and I can give you that number if you guys want to write it down for others. It's 1-800-950 and then NAMI, N-A-M-I. And they're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they do a lot of different, they'll refer to doctors in your area, resources. Also, a lot of times people with mental illness end up with legal problems. They can't work specifically with you, but they can give you names of lawyers who work within whatever your problem is, and that sort of thing. They're really good about lining up support groups, that sort of thing, for people who just have no idea. And we lead awareness and events activities, such things as Mental Illness Awareness Week and NAMI walks, and we try to combat the stigma and encourage understanding about mental illness. I wanted to let you guys know, and I have some papers here about support and educational meetings. We at NAMI Charleston area, we have monthly support groups and one weekly support group. And they're for family members and friends who have loved ones who've suffered from mental illness, and then they also have a separate one for individuals who are dealing with a brain disorder or mental illness. and everything said in those meetings is confidential. I happen to be a client. I had my first break, let's see, in 2002, and my second one in 2011, so almost 10 years apart. And I learned about NAMI in the hospital, and it really gave me a lease on life, because what happens when you have a certain break is you lose function, and mine were major depressive episodes, and I kind of explained to you how poorly my brain was working at that time. I couldn't see in color anymore. Everything was black and white. It's like a fog moves in. Your short-term memory is gone. You can't think. You're like, how am I going to function? And I had 3 kids to take care of. I had to function. And it was like, you know, whatever we need to do, we got to get me back. And it didn't go as quickly as I wanted, and I had to reevaluate who I was as a person and where my life was going. And NAMI gave me that. My children went with their father, and I just totally, I couldn't work anymore full time. I only had so much energy and that sort of thing. And I had to discover what recovery meant to me. And recovery in mental illness is different than, say, substance abuse or that sort of thing. And recovery for mental illness is considered a deeply personal, unique experience about changing one's attitudes, which I love you're doing, changing one's attitudes, values, feelings, goals, or roles. It's a way of living a satisfying, hopeful life, contributing within the limitation caused by the disease. Everyone with a psychiatric illness defines his or her own definition of recovery. And for me, my definition was making a life worth living. And that involves substituting the negative talk that was in my head with positive. And if you do that enough, it's like, you know how you have soap suds, say you're cleaning out something and they just come up and they start overflowing? Eventually, you put enough water in there, and I'm saying the water's the good stuff and the soap suds are the residue that we don't want. Put enough good stuff in there, all the negative stuff starts, you know, getting farther and farther behind you, and you're able to do that. Also, gratefulness, every day, gratefulness for little things. The other thing is, you know, I used to have a tendency to see who was better off than me. There are thousands in the world who are worse off than us. Realizing, you know, I don't live in a third world country. I don't have to walk 7 miles a day for contaminated water, hoping it will keep my family alive. You know, there are so many things that we take for granted, and shifting that power shift to realize, hey, this is good, this is great, has really helped my overall look for everything. And I wanted to share just a few of the educational programs that NAMI has, and then I'll get out of here. One is Family to Family, and that has been a wonderful program for family members of someone who has mental illness. My father was Navy medical for 30 years. My depression, his attitude was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. He told me, you don't have a real mental illness like schizophrenia. Well, when you're barely able to function, you know, I asked my parents, and they're wonderful people, if they would please go to Family and learn about all the diseases. And he, from a scientific mind put, came back and he said, do you know in major depression the glial cells die off in your brain? And I was like, yeah. And if, for those who aren't into neuro things, which most of us aren't, the glial cells are the cells that nourish the neurons within your brain. So if they're dying off, your brain's not getting the nourishment it needs so that your neurotransmitters aren't firing the way they should. And this can have long-term drastic effects. Also, your hippocampus in your brain can shrink, and that can have long-term effects. You know, we're talking now your brain is damaged from the crises. So then I started getting a shift in attitude. Oh, you do have a real mental illness. And okay, what can we do to help each other get through this? And it changed it from a you do to a we. And I have heard from other people the same thing who are clients. And even people coming out of that class have said that they have, it's been eye-opening, it's been extremely helpful, that sort of thing. In your own voice, this is a program I do. It's to reduce stigma, basically. And myself and someone else, we get up there and we tell our stories to a group of people. A lot of people look at me and they don't know that I have suffered mental illness. And we start off with like our dark days and that sort of thing. And then as we overcome and, treatment versus skills versus medications versus whatever it helps to overcome. And so I share that with people. Another program we have in the Charleston area is the Parents and Teachers as Allies. Have any of you heard of that? Okay, it's basically a 2-hour in-service education format for the staff and teachers at schools to understand early warning signs of mental illness, treatment needs in students, and how to best intervene. Because a lot of times it's very touchy to go to a parent and say, I really think you need to look at this. And then there's another one in the Charleston area which I teach. I will be teaching again this spring semester, and that is NAMI Basics. And that is basically a education program for parents or caregivers of children who have mental health disorders. And the way it presents in young children is very different than what it presents as an adult or as a teenager. And also, developmental milestones, oh, is it this or is it that? Having people know where to find the resources, what specialist do I need to ask for to evaluate my child, that sort of thing. And we also do some brain development and some other things in there. The course includes specifically about attention deficit disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, conduct disorder, oppositional defiance disorder, anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, childhood schizophrenia, and substance abuse disorder. And just a little note, I had a child who in the DSM-4 was not diagnosed with autism, but the current DSM-5, he would have been within the autism spectrum. And for you to teach any of these classes to get certified, they want you to have lived the experience so that you are able to relate to the other people. So I want to say that we all know the devastating effects that mental illness have. Anything that can prevent that or more negative coming down the road. Exercise is just one of the beautiful things. And for skills, that's one of the things I have to do for skills is check off my exercise. Did I do my exercise? Because it helps with overall mental health, not just physical health. So thank you. Sorry.
Great job.
And I have papers here if people want to pick it up for the support group meetings and times. Just gonna sit right there.
Our last is a nurse, and Lisa, unfortunately, where are you? Over there. You get to be the nurse. I forgot to tell you, sorry. She's from Charleston, Southern University, the College of Nursing. You want to tell us about what you're doing at Charleston Southern? I got some nursing students.
Good evening. I have to say, first of all, Liz, I really enjoyed your presentation. You're doing a great job with actually operationalizing all those great concepts that you brought forward with these girls, the power and the perseverance. It's great. I've really enjoyed that. And I'm an instructor of nursing here, a full-time faculty. And being a nurse, we think it's very, very important to serve vulnerable populations, and that's exactly what you're serving with these individuals. And it is these individuals that are underserved. So just great job, and we look forward to bringing this here to Charleston. As a faculty member here and being on the advisory board, my job is to be a liaison and a resource person and to bring in all the nursing community here and to help with that with our board. And that's basically what I feel my responsibility and role will be. So, yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, she's the last guest, so I was going to have everybody sit in their spots, but maybe we can just do it from sitting here because thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Questions? This is the time. If you've heard stuff you don't understand, or you've heard something that, you know, you want more clarification on, if you have specific questions for Liz. No one?
I'd like to know, after the program that's 12 weeks, what do you do with the girl when they finish? Do they keep contact or?
Well, it doesn't have to end at 12 weeks necessarily. I have some programs that have gone on indefinitely for the past 5 years. So in a way, it can be, I guess you could call it renewed. But also the ones that have ended, or they might leave residential, so they're not there anymore. So it's not so much that Girls with Soul ended, it's that they have moved on and that's what they're supposed to do. They can't live there forever. They do stay in contact with me. And I tell a lot of people that, you know, we do have measures for success of the programming, but I think that's probably one of our biggest ones, because I know for a fact at that age, and probably even at my age now, if I didn't have to be in contact with them, I wouldn't. You know, if they choose to reach out to me and let me know that they're still applying the principles, or that Girls with Soul is keeping them on track, or they just want to let me know what they're doing. And I think that that's a huge compliment to the program, because they choose to reach out to me and keep in touch. They're friends with me on Facebook, they have my email, all of that's public knowledge, so they can talk to me anytime you want. Some of them have even come back to races so that they can give back and help the girls who are in the programs. And I think that's really amazing, because, you know, they've driven far away, got up early in the morning, which is a huge deal to them because they're 20 years old. And they want to give back because it helped them and want to help out somebody else. So, pretty cool. Doesn't have to be 12 weeks, but for the most part, that's what most places will do. And then some will do 24 weeks or indefinite, just depends. Because a lot of the places, they either write a grant so that they can pay for the program to utilize it for the curriculum, or they pay for it. So if they're paying for it and they don't want to spend the money every 12 weeks, then that might make a difference. And then there's some that'll do the programs for free because they're state run and they don't have the money and they need it the most. So it's kind of it's a very grassroots organization in that way, because I can kind of, since I'm the only person, I don't have a staff, and I run things as needed or as I see fit.
What do they have to pay for, Liz?
They pay for programs, for the curriculum, for all the shoes and the journals and all that stuff. And even really, just for the fact that, you know, it's not gonna, you have to pay for marketing materials, you have to pay for everything. So for the Girls with Soul phone, or the Girls with Soul everything, you know, it all costs money. So if they're able to pay for it, we can charge, you know, for the use of the curriculum, because there is a guided curriculum. It's not just their meeting and, oh, let's just run around for an hour and then go home. You know, it's a trademark. They can't use the words Girls with Soul without that. So in a way, there's, you know, intellectual property that they're paying for too. But for the most part, it's also to cover the shoes, which is why, and all the other stuff, which is why even when they're donated, when I have enough funds to actually hire a staff, I don't have a staff yet, and I don't get paid for what I do. So I've worked for free for 6 years, and I love it, and it's my baby, and it's my passion. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was put on this planet and put through all the things that I was put through so that I could do this. Now I know this, so it's all good. But not many people are going to work for free, you know, and I don't expect anyone to. But we're not going to be able to grow to help as many kids as I want to reach if I don't have the infrastructure in place, and that takes funds. So without funds coming in from somewhere, we're never going to get to that level. We'll stay at, you know, this point. And obviously, you know, it's great to have the donations of the shoes and all that, but it's amazing how fast it goes. It comes in and you're so psyched, oh my God, $5,000. Oh my God, we're back down to $100 in our account. You know, and you're like, where did it go? Yes.
Just a question for Liz. So when people put the program on,
is it something that they repay for every 12 weeks, or once you're offering the program and offering the program, and you want them to be able to support themselves to create a sustainable?
When we have chapters in other places, like here, for instance, that's the goal. When I started it as nothing and had to build it, like even just a reputation, like let me come in and work with your kids, who are you, Joe Schmo? It was more, are you willing to pay for this? Are you not willing to pay for it? And then once we got to the level where they were and everybody wanted it, now trying to move out of just the Cleveland area and have chapters, we would want them to be able to sustain themselves. So the goal really is eventually, not probably necessarily in this one, but the long-term goal will be that I'm the CEO in Cleveland, that's the main headquarters, and then there's going to be chapters like Girls with Soul South Carolina or Girls with Soul Charleston, however you want to call it. And there's going to be executive directors that get paid to run those programs, and they're going to be sustaining themselves with their own infrastructure. But we're certainly very far away from that. So we're still really just building the model, to be honest with you, and what's going to work and what's going to create that sustainability. So we're there. We're almost there. We're getting there.
Like, we are the first chapter in the country, so we're trying to figure this out. So if anybody has any brilliant ideas of how to sustain ourselves.
And it's a huge deal, because if you think about it, we're still not even at an infrastructure at home, because I don't have a staff and I don't have the ability to pay anybody, let alone myself. So this is a really big deal to be starting something. And I am not correcting you at all, but it wasn't that I don't believe in you. And I think she said it like 5 times.
I was persistent.
You were, but here's the thing. Well, 2 things. One, I know people probably really want to get out of here. It's 8 o'clock already, and I want to value your time, but I also want to value the fact that I was so into my what did I call it? What's it called?
Hokey pokey.
The hokey pokey. I was so into the hokey pokey, I was remiss, and I didn't even thank you all for being here and for being part of this, and to Carol for all the amazing work that she's put into it. And I mean, just over the top. It's from the bottom of my heart and my soul, if there is a bottom. I thank you all. I mean, it's amazing, and I'm so excited and thrilled, and it's literally a dream come true. Because people told me it would never work, and I'm like, no, it's going to work, it's going to work. So I do apologize for not saying thank you in the very beginning, but I wanted to get my hokey on, and I got pokey, and then I forgot. So that's that. But then what was the other part that I was going to say? You guys got to help me. I don't either.
It takes money.
It does. It all takes money. Oh, it's... I can't remember. It'll come back to me.
You don't believe it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't. It's not at all. I was responding, but this is my baby that I built, and we don't have anything in place. So it's not like we're the Diabetes Association or the Cancer Society, or even NAMI, that you can say, okay, here is this is the cookie cutter way that we do everything. I'm literally starting everything from scratch, brand new, never been done before. I don't know necessarily the right way. So we have lawyers, and we have accountants, and we have all these things that people who are in our community are working pro bono for us. And thank God, because we wouldn't be able to pay them otherwise. So it's not that I didn't believe, but I want to do everything right and figure out the right approach. And this is, all the amazing supports and the different aspects of the mental health community and the nursing and the schools. We're already there. It's so amazing. So it does, unfortunately, always come down to money. And Carol doesn't want to be paid. But initially, that might be that's a huge blessing. But it's not going to sustain us in long term. So
No, I realize that.
So when we get it all set up, this is like a pilot program. It's like such an amazing thing, because how many times you get a chance to try something out with all the amazing things in place and the supports and the resources, and iron out all the bugs so that we can do it properly everywhere else. I also wanted to make sure she wasn't like insane and
She is.
insane in a good way now though. And she doesn't, I didn't know she could have like 10 heads or something. I never met her in person.
My true goal is to write for enough grants that we can sustain this after 2 years. I probably will have lost my mind completely after 2 years, but my goal is to get grants to fund it so that there will be a full-time paid person doing this.
Right.
So, but my goal is also to serve in any capacity that I can to make sure that this program is both started and sustained. I don't want a program that just falls apart.
Yes.
What is a typical program? I mean, I don't even know exactly what goes on.
Well, you mean in like the 12 weeks?
Right.
What do we do?
Right.
It's adaptable to the place and the time and the age group. And the program partner kind of determines who the kids are that we're working with and what we can do. So if it's in a church hall and there's no gym, then we're probably not shooting hoops. So obviously there's going to be issues or places. But for the most part, every program is either an hour or an hour and a half. It depends on the program partner. It's usually an after-school program because the kids are a captive audience. They're there. I come in and I bring the programs directly to them where they are. And we do everything, like I said, from all different sports and whatever, but it's usually split almost down the middle. So I have a curriculum book that I can follow, and it's adaptable, so you can mix and match what you do. But the program is generally based on fitness for the first portion, which I'd say 30 to 40 minutes, whatever it is that activity may be that day, or a number of activities.
Once a week? Or?
It's once a week for an hour or an hour and a half in each location, because I run 7 locations at home right now. And then the rest is the self-esteem building activity or the peer building activity, and it's usually an art project of some sort, or it could be, like I said, a positive circle or something like that where it's more of a discussion. But for the most part, the girls like to do the work with the stickers and the markers and all of that, because then, I don't make them, but I usually always make sure there's time for everyone to share theirs if they want to, and they usually always want to. There's hardly anyone that doesn't. So, so it's kind of what it is. And it can go on indefinitely because you can mix and match the programs and the activities in any way. So,
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
What criteria do you use for at-risk kids?
Well, to me, anybody's at risk for anything. Obviously, I would think that because I grew up in a suburb and my dad was an attorney and my mom was a housewife. So clearly anything can happen to anyone at any time. But I think, the underserved communities that we were talking about that don't have maybe even if they wanted to, their mom can't take them to the rec center and sit there for an hour while they're doing a class. It's just not even on their radar, and it's not feasible. So maybe they're at risk for not going to school. They might be more prone to things that kids in maybe the suburbs wouldn't have happened to them. So that's, I guess, my criteria, but in my mind, anybody's at risk for anything. It doesn't matter where you live or what you look like. And I tell you, a lot of kids, when you said nobody thinks that you had mental illness, the kids, I know a lot of times when I walk into a place and they look at me and they're like, seriously? What could she even possibly know or relate to that I could know or relate to? I don't understand what this woman's even doing here. And then when I share my story, or they even get to know me, and then they can smell bologna and cheese a mile away. I promised Carol I wouldn't swear, so I'm going to go with bologna and cheese. But they see that I'm real and that I do care about them, and no matter what, I keep coming back, and all of a sudden I'm looked at in a totally different light. So I don't know, the criteria is the kids that need me. I feel like there's so many that need me or need Girls with Soul, and now we'll need you guys. So they're all there. But I think the at-risk communities are the greatest need.
I think what we do need to remember is even if a girl isn't going to react to it at the time that it's happening, it doesn't mean that it's not going to impact her entire life. Because like me, it took until I was 47 years old to finally deal with the problem. I still have not told my mother that the church abused me, or that my cousin, which is her aunt's son, she still doesn't know those things. I probably will never tell her. And I certainly haven't told her about what happened to me when I was 13, you know, because I was somewhere I shouldn't have been.
Well, that's very true, and I think that's why we always say that we're planting the seeds for empowerment. So if it doesn't take right away, or if they don't think they need it, or whatever the case may be, those seeds have been planted, and they can lace up anytime they feel like it's time for me to do it now. And I've had kids come back to me and tell me the same thing, like, I didn't think I needed it, or they'll ask, can I come back to the program? You know, because their school doesn't have it, or they graduated and they want it at their high school because they had it at their grade school, and they were gone for a year or two, and now they're like, can you come back, Miss Liz? So yeah, the seeds are planted, and that's all that matters. They might not be ready for it at first, but they need it.
And I think there's something to be said about a safe place for a safe reaction. And, you know, when they build those relationships and know that there are similar stories there, it becomes a safe place, and it becomes a place of understanding of why I don't want to tell so-and-so, why I don't want to tell so-and-so. I also was a victim of childhood sexual abuse. My mother found out, and what she told me, don't tell your father, he will think it's your fault.
Yeah.
And, you know, my father's father was born in 1896. My parents were older when they had me. It was the mindset. My parents are pushing 80, you know, it's the mindset. She was very careful to keep me away from the person who did it, and took the very proactive steps. But she did not want me re-victimized by my father, being told that it was my fault. And unfortunately, we still have some of those cultural things in there. So having a safe place with sisters who've gone through similar experiences, I think also is empowering.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like, we did an awesome job.
We did an awesome job.
Carol. Thank you so much, Carol. I can't even thank you enough. I love you.
Each and every one of you, and you have to tell me who you are.
And thank you for doing the video. What do we do? It's adaptable to the place and the time and the age group. And the program partner kind of determines who the kids are that we're working with and what we can do. So if it's in a church hall and there's no gym, then we're probably not shooting hoops. So obviously there's going to be issues or places. But for the most part, every program is either an hour or an hour and a half. It depends on the program partner. It's usually an after-school program because the kids are a captive audience. They're there. I come in and I bring the programs directly to them where they are. And we do everything, like I said, from all different sports and whatever, but it's usually split almost down the middle. So I have a curriculum book that I can follow, and it's adaptable, so you can mix and match what you do. But the program is generally based on fitness for the first portion, which I'd say 30 to 40 minutes, whatever it is that activity may be that day, or a number of activities.
Once a week? Or?
It's once a week for an hour or an hour and a half in each location, because I run 7 locations at home right now. And then the rest is the self-esteem building activity or the peer building activity, and it's usually an art project of some sort, or it could be, like I said, a positive circle or something like that where it's more of a discussion. But for the most part, the girls like to do the work with the stickers and the markers and all of that, because then I don't make them, but I usually always make sure there's time for everyone to share theirs if they want to, and they usually always want to. There's hardly anyone that doesn't. So, so it's kind of what it is. And it can go on indefinitely because you can mix and match the programs and the activities in any way. So,
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
What criteria do you use for at-risk?
Well, to me, anybody's at risk for anything. Obviously, I would think that because I grew up in a suburb and my dad was an attorney and my mom was a housewife. So clearly anything can happen to anyone at any time. But I think, the underserved communities that we were talking about that don't have maybe even if they wanted to, their mom can't take them to the rec center and sit there for an hour while they're doing a class. It's just not even on their radar, and it's not feasible. So maybe they're at risk for not going to school. They might be more prone to things that kids in maybe the suburbs wouldn't have happen to them. So that's, I guess, my criteria, but in my mind, anybody's at risk for anything. It doesn't matter where you live or what you look like. And I tell you, a lot of kids, when you said nobody thinks that you had mental illness, the kids, I know a lot of times when I walk into a place and they look at me and they're like, seriously? What could she even possibly know or relate to that I could know or relate to? I don't understand what this woman's even doing here. And then when I share my story, or they even get to know me, and then they can smell bologna and cheese a mile away. I promised Carol I wouldn't swear, so I'm going to go with bologna and cheese. But they see that I'm real and that I do care about them, and no matter what, I keep coming back, and all of a sudden I'm looked at in a totally different light. So I don't know, the criteria is the kids that need me. I feel like there's so many that need me or need Girls with Soul, and now we'll need you guys. So they're all there. But I think the at-risk communities are the greatest need.
I think what we do need to remember is even if a girl isn't going to react to it at the time that it's happening, it doesn't mean that it's not going to impact her entire life. Because like me, it took until I was 47 years old to finally deal with the problem. I still have not told my mother that the church abused me, or that my cousin, which is her aunt's son, she still doesn't know those things. I probably will never tell her. And I certainly haven't told her about what happened to me when I was 13, because I was somewhere I shouldn't have been.
Well, that's very true, and I think that's why we always say that we're planting the seeds for empowerment. So if it doesn't take right away, or if they don't think they need it, or whatever the case may be, those seeds have been planted, and they can lace up anytime they feel like it's time for me to do it now. And I've had kids come back to me and tell me the same thing, like, I didn't think I needed it, or they'll ask, can I come back to the program? Because their school doesn't have it, or they graduated and they want it at their high school because they had it at their grade school, and they were gone for a year or two, and now they're like, can you come back, Miss Liz? So, yeah, the seeds are planted, and that's all that matters. They might not be ready for it at first, but they need it.
And I think there's something to be said about a safe place for a safe reaction. And, when they build those relationships and know that there are similar stories there, it becomes a safe place, and it becomes a place of understanding of why I don't want to tell so-and-so, why I don't want to tell so-and-so. I also was a victim of childhood sexual abuse. My mother found out, and what she told me, don't tell your father, he will think it's your fault.
Yeah.
And, my father's father was born in 1896. My parents were older when they had me. It was the mindset. My parents are pushing 80, it's the mindset. She was very careful to keep me away from the person who did it, and took the very proactive steps. But she did not want me re-victimized by my father, being told that it was my fault. And unfortunately, we still have some of those cultural things in there. So having a safe place with sisters who've gone through similar experiences, I think also is empowering.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mike, we did an awesome job.
We did an awesome job.
Carol. Thank you so much, Carol. I can't even thank you enough. I love you.
Each and every one of you, and you have to tell me who you are.
And thank you for doing the video.